Hello, everybody again. Maree here. Nice to see you back. Thanks for joining me. I'm continuing with my true stories, my real happenings in my world. So today we'll be journeying through my story with Lady Nada, who is actually the higher ascended version of Mary Magdalene. So this story took place approximately around that 2010 mark. This whole point in time, 9, 10, 11, 12 were huge years for me in learning and growth and understanding. But before I get to the actual story, just a bit of a heads up where I've been and who I was, so you hopefully can see the growth as to who I am these days. In truth, and I don't say this lightly or in any way jesting about it, in truth, I have in this particular lifetime, and I am positive other lifetimes too, been a very, very negative person, been a very judgmental person. And of course, we know now that that was all being such a very, very dominant fear-based person. I own that absolutely. That was the walk I had to do, the walk I had to take to understand, live through certain circumstances, create certain circumstances, we all do, as for the greater teaching when I was ready to awaken unto it, which I am and still am, as we all are. But to the point even that my fear was so strong that there is a lineage pattern right through the women of my family. And all of us created actually a condition, which I'm not going to get into today, but we created a physical condition which reflected the depth of fear that we held. So in short, what that means is, when energy, you're light and flowing, your water body carries energy through it. So energy of water and light travels through our blood system. And in my particular world, I created a genetic condition, which, again, I don't buy into now, knowing and understanding energy. There is no such thing as genetics. It's all energy-based. But we created a situation through my mother, my grandmother, and I'm not sure how far beyond that, they would have even known it beyond that probably, where we had very, very thick blood. We had to have blood taken regularly. And so when I actually woke up to that in my walk at around 38 years of age mark, I saw this incredible DNA pattern, this energetic pattern that we had all carried forward for the greater teaching, and I chose to shift that. So why am I saying that? Well, particularly what I wanted to do was bring up again that fear and that judgment. We were very judgmental. My mother was judgmental. We all have judgment within us, and we have to now start to recognize that within us. But this particular story reflects that. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up now. And how that appeared for me again was in 2001, actually. This particular journey took place. And it was straight after the 9/11. And then 9/11, with the Twin Towers collapsing, being hit, and the birth of terrorism, another phase of the darker forces creating fear to maintain their power. This is the truth of what that reflected, and more on that to come. But in 2001, when I came home, I was actually nursing at that time still. I was assistant director of nursing at a private hospital in Sydney, a large private hospital. And I came home after a late shift evening, after 11, and got home to see that this was taking place live in the US. So I was already awake. I had woken up well and truly consciously in the 90s, but before that also. But I remember being still very physical then, as we were, certainly not the light that we are today and the consciousness that's present now. But it was horrific. It was horrifying, because these images were, terribly impacting, and the world seemed like it was collapsing literally, because, America and Australia are very linked. It was the Western world, and Australia back then, well, if it's not in our face and in our backyard, we don't care. But this was profound, very profound. And so the next day, my aunt, my blessed aunt, my guide and mentor, she decided to run a vigil that night in Wollongong, about 40 minutes away from where I lived, to help the souls who passed over, because that was also part of my role that I was coming into and learning and doing in physical at the time, was assisting any souls that were passing over the veil, who got a little bit stuck in the lower astral elements, to assist them across if that was their so-called desire at soul level. So, yep, I was all for that. Hands up, I'm coming down, and this part of me that just so wanted to, help these poor souls against these horrible people. And this is truly what I was thinking about then, these terrible people that created this horrible situation and all these people died. And oh my goodness, no, I'm there, in this ego sense, really, to help them across and to, move them forward so they don't get stuck or be trapped in the lower planes. So what was interesting though, and there I am already in judgment, I'm already judging the terrorism, as we all did in Highest Truth. So as I'm heading down that night in the car, I, at that point, was very clairaudient and clairvoyant. So driving down, one of my main masters, who was one of the first ones to ever come to me, he popped into the car as I'm driving down. And where I happened to live at that point in time was south of Sydney, and we were near the Lucas Heights reactor, the nuclear reactor facility, which I also did a lot of work on. But as I drove past El Moria, his name is, the master of truth and of the first ray, divine will, the blue ray, powerful ray, and he sat beside me. And he said to me, oh, this is terrible. This is really dreadful. You have work to do. And I said, yes, I do, in my ego. Yes, I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. Whatever you want, I'll do. And he said, look, you need to alert the authorities. You need to tell people, as we were driving past this nuclear reactor, that there will be another bomb, and they will be placing a bomb in the reactor, and it will go off. So you need to alert the authorities before this happens. So he's having this big spiel to me in the car, and I'm like, in hindsight now, and then like I'm freaking out. I can remember it so clearly, thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. What do I do? What do I do? But then at the same time, my fear, which was rife, was going, well, God, if I'm saying that there's going to be a bomb in this thing, then they'll probably think that I'm part of it. How would I know that? And I can't tell them that I had a psychic impression, because that wasn't even heard of back then, really. So I was in this like discombobulated state, driving to Wollongong, freaking out, could feel my fear rising and rising, and he disappeared by now. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, oh, what do I do with this information? And I remember getting down, there was quite a few people for this vigil at my aunt's that night, and I walked in, I thought, quick hellos, and didn't care about anybody, and I just went up straight up to her, and she's like, hi, how are you? And I just said, there's going to be another bomb, and there's going to be this, and this is going to happen. And she said, well, there may well be. And I just said, no, this, Maree told me, and I was ranting and carrying on, and I was in this absolute pickle. And she just looked at me in this state, I'll never forget it, and she just said, outside now. And I thought, what have I done? What have I done? So I went outside, and I'm thinking, what the hell have I done? And she came out, and, and we can, and I do it now too. She was very stern with me, and she said, no. She said, this is not okay. This is fear. This is not the light. You need to sage yourself and clear yourself now and cut all cords to whoever you've just aligned to, because this is not the truth. And I just went, oh, and then I felt like the naughty little schoolgirl thinking, oh my God, what did I do? Who did I talk to? Well, that looked like El Moria, but he's the master of the great ray. And then I went through all this stuff. And then as I just started to sort of tune in, settle down, ground in again, and sage, bless sage, I started to calm down a bit and let go. And she said, and these are valuable lessons for us all, and please take note, I often say this, is that, and she came back to me and she said, anyone that ever promotes any fear, regardless of how they present, who they present as, whatever they tell you, whoever presents fear in you, promotes fear in you, is not of the light. And I went, oh, right. Okay, so I had to sit with that, and she was getting then ready to go in, and she was leading us all in this meditation. And I sat with that a minute, had to ground in, had to really confront my ego, my fear, and thought, wow, that's a huge teaching, got it. And I've never forgotten it. I have never forgotten. And the other point of call for those of you that might be communicating, might be hearing, might be getting psychic impressions and clairaudient, clairvoyant, whatever, please discern always who you are connecting to. And my cardinal rule of thumb now that I again teach everybody, and I do for myself routinely. So it doesn't matter if Master Jesus is coming through, Mother Mary, if the source itself is coming through, if fifth dimensional entities are coming through, 6th, 7th, 8th, 22 dimensionals, it doesn't matter. Ask them to identify themselves immediately before you connect in, because once you've connected, you're aligned, okay? So in your truth and power and your maintenance of your own field for your own highest light and vibration, ask in the name of the I am that I am, highest point of self I am, in the name of the I am that I am, name yourself now. And if not, return to your source immediately. Be gone. Because anything that is not of love and light can never, ever say, I am. Now they will say, and I've had the tricks too, because I've had to test myself through this. They might say, oh, it's okay. No, I'm Mel Moria. I'm Mother Mary. I'm so-and-so. Yes, I'm that person. Yes, don't worry about it. And they could talk around in a whole different way to try to distract you, to try to entice you, to try to align to you. And even if they say I'm, no, it has to be I am. Trust your instincts. Again, if anything ever does not sit with you and promotes fear, send them away straight away. There is nothing to fear in that moment, because the minute you say, and this is divine will of this space that we're currently in until it shifts soon enough, your will rules. So when you demand anything, any lesser force must leave. They cannot hang around with you saying, be gone, full stop, and you've got to mean it. Okay, so just remember that, because that's a really important thing to remember. Huge, huge teaching for me, for the work that I had to do. So here we are now, we're inside the house. I've settled down and I'm sitting there still a bit sort of, wow, God, stuffed up there, being a bit hard on myself, judging myself. And this whole video is about the judgment. And so I'm sitting there probably feeling a bit sorry for myself and sitting in my own little corner. And then my auntie, she started to lead us through, and the plan was, as she explained, we were heading to New York and we were going to assist the souls under the rubble to anyone that needed help to clear and cross over. Got that. So I was all keen for that. Got to make amends, because I'm still judging myself and still feeling bad, negative, that I'd stuffed. So we're sitting there, and there must have been like maybe 20 of us in the room, so it was a good crowd really for her little place. And so they're drifting off, and we're doing our thing, and she's leading, and I can hear her saying, we're heading off to New York, and we're going over now, and I was a good meditator, always been a good meditator, and would travel with people, do my own thing, as we should, guided by a higher self, as we always are. And so she's taking us over here, and they're all drifting off, and I can see them all moving to New York. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just a bit behind the crowd here. I'll have to try and catch up in my mental ego way. And then as they're heading over this way, I realized I was going over this way. And I was the only one that was going opposite the group. And then my ego again kicked in and was saying, wait a minute, as many of us do when we're meditating, I should be going here. They're all going over there. Why am I going with them? And, trying to catch up, and that wasn't working. And then it was like, well, what's happening? I don't want to be going over here. I want to be going to New York. I've got good work to do. Ego, ego, ego. So in the end, I just thought, what are you doing? You listen to yourself. Consciousness, as I always say, we have to come back to the center. And I thought, you know better than this, just go with it. You might be doing something else somewhere else that's just as good, ego, and just let it all happen. So I did. I just settled out, saw them drift off, was still part of me going, why aren't I with them? But allowed myself to take my journey and trusted my higher self. So then I drifted, and I was very high in some energetic space, well above the earth. And then the next thing I realized, when I stopped and I came to obviously where I was meant to be working, I looked down below and I was over the Middle East. And I remember going, I don't want to be here. Now here comes judgment again. I don't want to be here. This is where the terrorists came from. I want to go back to New York. I want to go over to New York. I don't want to be here. This is where this whole thing stemmed from. Why would I be sitting over this? And I was having this tantrum in my head about, what the hell am I doing here over the Middle East? And the next thing I could see was this huge crimson light appear before me. And I looked over, and it was Lady Nada, as I said, Mary Magdalene in her higher ascended form. And I remember saying, because, this is me, I remember saying to Nada, what the hell am I doing here? Like, why am I here? This is the least place that I want to be. I don't want to be here. I want to be over there. Why? You obviously have brought me here, respect and love and gratitude, but why am I here? I don't understand. And I still clearly, as you do, they're imprinted in your cells and your mind. I still see Nada, as resplendent as she is, standing there in full power and glory in this incredible glow of light and grace and love that she represents and is and emanates. And she just stood there and looked at me and just smiled. And I thought, I'm not getting any answers. I said, Nada, why? And she just continued to shine and emanate her love. And I thought, I don't understand. And I was trying to come from this physical, conscious, get it in my head, what's happening, and chat about it instead of here. And then, it was all in my head at the time, and I was getting nothing back from her. And I know she can speak, we've communicated, but there was nothing. And I thought, I don't understand this. And I really could feel my anger. I could feel my frustration. I could feel my fear in a way. Well, that's part of fear. But I could feel all those lower vibrations and still my judgment about being really angry that I had to come here. And this wasn't okay. Well, the next thing, we created all. My higher self said, this is for you, sweetheart. And I remember then seeing this huge blackness rise, just coming out of the ether, and that just was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I could feel my solar plexus going, whoa, as it does, whoa, and the churning and the fear was going. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this? And it got larger and larger and just kept developing into this huge, dark Lord. And as large as it got, the more fearful I became, as it would. Our fear increases in fear. We're playing the same vibrational game. So I'm feeding it. It's being fed by my fear. So it's growing, of course. And then it was like, and I honestly felt like I'm going to die here. I couldn't do anything. You're powerless. You just, that point, we've all been at some point where we are in so much fear, we can't move, we can't speak. I couldn't even speak to Nada now. I'm looking at Nada and I'm yelling at her in my mind, help me now. I'm going to die, help me. And I still see her smiling ever so amazingly, thinking, what the hell? And this thing's growing and growing and growing. And then again, that higher aspect, my heart, my higher self kicked in, my knowing, my knowledge is power, kicked in. And I remember thinking, you've got to do this. This is your stuff. You've got to change the situation or you're gone. And I remember looking at her and looking at this thing, and it was all in slow-mo. Everything was very slow. And I remember just thinking, love. She's just love. She's happy. She's not worried. Love is the answer. Love, you have to find love, and you've got to send this thing love. And I couldn't. And I was like, oh, I've got no love. I can't do anything because I'm in such fear. It was a really, really fearful moment. And it was just like, I haven't got fear, but I've got to find fear. I've got to find love. I've got to find love. I've got fear. I've got to find, and this was me. And I thought, oh, you just got to get your act together. You just got to get it together. And I remember going, love, sending love. And I could hear the fear. And I knew it. And I was just like, love. And it was just still growing. It was getting closer. I'm thinking, love. And I remember just shutting my eyes then and just thinking, love. And it's like the old fake it till you make it mantras. Just keep repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating until you hit critical mass threshold, which is the shift of reality. 51% is all you need to change the belief, to change the reality. So I'm there probably with my eyes closed, still seeing it though, because I had to. Sending love, and I was just saying love, sending love, trying to send it from my heart. It wasn't happening for ages. I'm saying love. And then at some point, I don't know how far in, but I remember then just saying it repeatedly, repeating. And then I could start to feel the difference. Now, this is again, until we do something, you can't understand it. You have to do stuff, okay? You can't just read this and get it all. So I sent it, I kept sending it. But as I said, as I started to feel more confident and I felt stronger, because obviously I was pushing towards 51%, that mass threshold point, And so I'm just thinking love, love. And as what I noticed, and I've done it before and other times, is that I'm sending the love now. That shift of energy starts to kick in. So my fear is now diminishing. It's all complementary. So as fear rises, love diminishes. So I could start to feel my physiology and my body start to shift, which gave me more confidence to keep going. So then I really got my power going. I'm doing this, you know, I am doing this now. So keep going with love. And I pushed it. And then I could see coming through me the streams of pink light nada. It wasn't coming through her to me. It was me finding that within me, that she's mirroring to me. So I sent it and I sent it, and then I could see that I was past mass threshold point, critical point. Then I just could send this instantly without an issue, and I was in full power. I felt stronger. I felt like I'm in charge now. I had my full complement of power moving through me that I am, that we all are. Then what I saw was the game changer, and it has been ever since for me and judgment and anything less than. As I continued to amplify the love ray in my true power, what I saw then was the Dark Lord started to dissolve, fading. The more I amped it, the quicker the dissolution of the darkness. Just completely dissolved, like we'd use the violet flame now, which I didn't use at the time. It was this pure love ray. Straight through with love, watching this thing just dissolve as it was coming closer. It just dissolved right before me completely. Eventually I was over it, just shining my love and sending love, and I meant it, love unconditional, to this energy, this entity that was actually me. This is just a reflection of my greatest fear, me. Deep down, carry the energy. But then what I saw was, as the blackness just dissolved completely, gone, was the greatest teaching that I never forget now. The image then that I saw left behind was of a hurricane lamp. And some of you may have heard me tell this story before. But this old, very old, ancient hurricane lamp was just sitting on the space-time floor, for want of a better word, just before me. And it was old, it was a bit rusted, but I could see through. But what I saw in the hurricane lamp was the tiniest, tiniest flame. As I looked at it, and I looked at the lamp, and I looked at Nada, who was still shining her beautiful light, non-judgmental, love unconditional, that they are. I just got it and went, oh my God, Nada, I get this. I so get this moment. Thank you. I can't say thank you enough. I hear the call, the message. And the message was that that low flame exists in many people who are all based in fear. And that flame is absolutely synergistic, complementary to the amount of fear that people hold. So the less fear a soul holds, the higher the flame. The more fear a person holds, the least flame that they have within their being. So what I learned with that was, these beings, including me and everyone, deserve love, because that is truly what they're lacking. That is why people exist in fear, and all the many outpourings that fear is through all the traits that we know, recognize within ourselves and beyond us. That is all fear is about. It is the absence, the minimalized aspects of love that someone has within their being. And what I knew in that moment was, and the message I personally received was, who am I to withhold love? Who am I to withhold Source's love that I receive, that this being is as well? Every soul, we know now we're one, we're birthed from the same source, we're equal, we are all connected, we are all brothers and sisters of the one source. Who am I to withhold love from you? Who would I like love withheld from me? When I'm in my deepest, darkest moments, and I have been, The one thing we all want is we just want to be understood. We want to be held. We want to be heard. We want to be nurtured. These are the true energies underlying our pain, our wounds, our anger, our projections, you know, our judgments, everything. Everything that we're doing is we're doing to ourselves. So whatever we see in another is always about us. So that dark being simply represented the darkness that I have had in my cells and memory and etheric field for lifetimes. From when I first evolved from the highest point of light that I am, and you are too. So since that moment in time, to the best of my ability, we've all slipped up, and I had over those years of the progression too, and I still am very cautious always of that thought that the old ego, they're layers, that we're onions, so we're unpeeling or unfurling. You know, our ego hides in crevices and creases and garments of all the garments we've ever worn. So it's about not judging us first and foremost, learning to accept us, learning to accept another, seeing through the eyes of love to see what's happening with that person. Why are they reacting or responding the way they are? Are we reacting to them? Because if we're reacting, we're of a frequency that they are mirroring to us. If we are just observing, we're free. We can see the trait, but we're not reactive, so we've raised our vibration to the trait. We see it because we've been the trait. Energy is only energy that tracks like energy, and you can only see the vibration that you are, which is why you'll see certain things and other people don't. They don't need to see your teaching, your lesson, as you might not need to see theirs, because you don't have that vibrational match. You may have shifted it and cleared it already, or you just didn't create it, full stop. This is the journey. But judgment is a huge, huge energetic trait to master. And once we truly master it, boy, are we feeling free. But it's that judgment to the self. You know, we often don't even recognize we're in judgment to begin. When we become conscious of our judgment, we are truly being asked to rise to that, to become aware, to transmute it, to cut our ties to it. Because ultimately, again, we only see it out there because it's existing within us. So how are we judging ourselves? And first and foremost, start sending love to you. You know, and the message that I clearly got the other day, they're really coming through lately. I feel like I'm really starting to that next phase of audience again. But there's lots of different I am, you know, love, I am light. You know, there's lots of different ways that we can say that anything with I am takes you straight to the God source, the Holy Christ self, the highest point of self that you are always. And I clearly heard again, Master Jesus is walking with me through these talks and of late. And I was just having a moment the other day, and we all do, where I just felt a little bit down, a bit flat, and was working through another deeper layer that I had to shift and raise, but I was conscious of it all. But this time, what I heard clearly was, I am love. I am loved. I am beloved, beloved. So that was a different 3 sentences. I've heard other aspects, I use other aspects, but this was different. But what struck me was I was sitting out in the sun at the time, and when I heard I am love, it was just this overwhelming presence that I received, where I know how I've obstructed and pushed away love for me, thinking I don't deserve it, I'm not good enough. I've had all those traits that many of us have. But when I heard it, it was just, it's time to just remember you are love. You know, you've not done anything ever, and this is me talking to me, you've never done anything ever that warrants that source would ever not love you. Only we think we can't be fully lovable. And so that I am love was just this feeling of finally accepting the totality that I've always been love, I always am love, and I always will be love, as we all are. So those 3 really resonate to me at the moment. I am love, I am loved, and I am beloved. So that's my story for today. As I said, just please, your consciousness is everything. Watch yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you think to yourself, how you speak to others, what you think, because this is a really big time where the light is pumping through and purging all aspects about judgment. This COVID is really bringing to the surface judgment and how people are reflecting to each other, how we are talking to each other, how we're in camps against each other. So we can see these lines of division that the ego is wanting to take place, and be very aware of how you are walking and working through this time and where your thoughts are being placed and what you are aligning to. Because even of the light, there are many who are still judging. You know, these are fine layers we work through. So in truth, you know, there was a very close family member to me this week that raised some comments that I saw on Facebook, which as the observer was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. No judgment, just that observation. I didn't feel reactive, just saw it for what it was, heard the words and the anger and almost this loathing that was coming through, and the abhorrent nature of everything, and this projection. And it could easily have been a moment of, oh, well, okay. But when we rise and when we're conscious, I stepped out, felt all those words, looked at myself. Where are you sitting with this? Are there any reactions? As I always say to everybody else, I do myself. But then I sat there and I recognized that this being is going through a lot at the moment. Personally, there's a lot on her plate, a lot which is very important in her world that's not going to take place because of the current situation. So I recognize that there's just so much fear and anger and pain in her that this is her projection out as well. So she's just choosing to release that through attack on those she's perceiving and judging as the issue. But they're not. We know that. This is a game we all play. So sending love is your ultimate goal. So that's exactly what I do. Just sending love. And truthfully, you know, I am sending love to every soul, every man, woman and child, to their mighty I am presence all the time, sending them love, because the I am will take it down, the soul will receive it, and the personality will get it as they are willing and choosing to. But again, if we're not sending it, then we can't assist this world to rise either. So it's very important. Love is the answer. What is the question? I love that. I will say it often, but that's simply what it is. The answer to every question you ever have is love. Okay, so be aware, be conscious, watch your judgment, work on the judgment as it comes in. Just step back and have that greater vista look at what's taking place in your world, and truly only worry about you. Worry about all that's taking place within you and balance that, because that's the path forward into mastery. Mastering your mental mind masters your emotional body, masters the world that you're seeing before you. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the story. Love any comments that are coming through. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon with another story. Okay, have a lovely day. Bye.